to design a lock. Let's show you how to design a lock inside PractiCAM. If you would like to design a lock, you must come over to Locks and click on it. You will now enter what we call the lock editor. Lock editor, joint editor, and seam editor all work identical to one another. You will see here we have choices from snap lock all the way down to the last one in our bin, which is Acme lock. If you enter a takeoff screen, you will see all of those choices appear right underneath the lock category. For example, we will go into a piece of rectangular duct, we will go into lock, and you can see right here we have from snap lock all the way down to Acme lock. Let's show you how to design a lock from scratch. First, you need to go into locks, and then you need to decide one of two things. We can either make a copy of an existing lock, or we can create a new one. In order to make a copy of an existing lock, for example, imagine I just wanted to modify my small Pittsburgh. I can highlight small Pittsburgh and then come over to the icon here that says create a new lock. If I click on it, it will make a copy of small Pittsburgh, and we can rename it whatever we like. We will call this my lock. If we would like to create a brand new lock from scratch, we need to make sure that nothing is highlighted. In order to do that, we click the empty space right here below our last lock and touch once. You'll notice now that nothing is highlighted. Now if I hit the create a new lock icon, you will see that it starts with a completely fresh lock that we will call new lock. Let's call this That's Pittsburgh. Now PractiCAM allows you to design virtually any type of connector you would like. We have here a set of tools which appear also in our part editor. By going through that section in tutorials, you can learn how to use every one of these tools. They are all very easy to use. One of the tools I have here is a zoom out key and a toggle grid on and off. Another one here happens to be your grid settings key, which allows me to change my settings. For example, we're going to change our grid settings to 1/4 of an inch by 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to press OK. Essentially here, what we need to do is draw the contour of the lock we would like, and then we can apply it to our actual fitting. You see here we have two sections. We have the male on the left and the female on the right. Imagine this small Pittsburgh lock needs to be just 1/4 inch long. You can see my 0, 0 here. What I would do is I would come over here, select my line by line, and just come up to 1/4 inch, come all the way across, and then come back down. Now, here is a key point. Right now, currently, if we were to save this lock as is, PractiCAM would actually take this lock, it's more like a tab, which is 1 1/4 inches long, and it would repeat it all the way down the length of the allowance. It would look sort of like a dovetail. However, if we would like the allowance to just come up 1/4 inch and then run flat all the way across the length of the allowance, we need to use a feature called auto width. In order to do that, we click on the line we would like to change, and you will see as we click on the line we get the X, Y, and angle parameters. You'll notice that a little button over here called auto width appears. If I were to check auto width right now currently, watch what happens. You can see we now have a dotted line which represents that this allowance is going all the way down to one end to the other. This is just a small Pittsburgh allowance that will come out 1/4 inch, run across the top, and then come down 1/4 inch as well. At this point we can do two things to save. We can either come over here and click onto the female and you will see our lock applied, or we can come over here and click our little diskette that says save the selected lock. Now we're going to design the female lock. This time, instead of using the grid coordinates, we're just going to draw a general contour, and then you put in the values in order to design a female lock. We're going to keep the female lock at, let's just say, 1 inch. I'm going to zoom out, and I'm just going to draw a general contour. I start from 0, 0, come up, and then come back down to the 0 point. Now granted, this does not look like a female lock. We would like it to come up straight, over, and then down. Some people even keep it a little bit over, so let's make it a little bit offset. Let's put in XY values for each one of these lines so you can see how to do it from scratch. First, we're going to click on this line. We have here an X and a Y. Let's say we would like the X value to be 1/8 of an inch. And then I press enter. You must press enter for it to apply. Then I'm going to come over here to the Y value. I'm going to type in 1 inch and press enter. We now have a line here that goes exactly 1/8 inch off and 1 inch tall. And you can see PractiCAM also calculating the angle for you. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to click on this line. We need to make sure that this line is flat across the top. So we have to have a 0 for our y-axis, as you can see here, or our y value. X, what we are going to do is use auto width because we want this to run all the way across the top. So let's click on auto width. You'll see that PractiCAM is now auto width. The last line what we need to do is put in values for here. Let's say the X is going to be identical to the other side, 0.125 or 1/8 of an inch. I press enter. And now the Y value, you'll notice, has to be negative. The reason why is we are starting up here and coming down on the Y axis. Most of the time your numbers here for Y will be positive on the left but negative on the right because you usually draw from left to right. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to type in -1 for Y. We come over here and click our little diskette, and you'll see that we have just designed a Pittsburgh lock called Test Pittsburgh. Now we can come out to our takeoff screen and pick any fitting. We will use a piece of rectangular duct. Let's just make this 12 by 12 by 12. And we're going to put on lock as Test Pittsburgh. I will also make it raw edge so we can see. Actually, let's do this. Let's put a slip and drive connector on there so we can see our notches. I'm now going to take the lock. I'm going to come down to Test Pittsburgh. And here we can zoom in to see the length of our allowances. Here on the left we can zoom in and measure. And you'll notice that we have our small Pittsburgh lock, which is exactly 1/4 inch right there on the male. If we come over to our other side, our female, zoom in and measure this allowance, you will see that it'll be exactly 1/8 of an inch over and 1 inch long. This is how we design locks inside PractiCAM. We will do a couple other locks just so you get the hang of it.